that the native population is very risk averse taking. Means the local people in Assam or in general in Northeast don't like to take risks. So they prefer government jobs or jobs which has much more stability. And Gunajit is an exception to that. And that is something that can inspire many of us. When Gunajit passed out from IIM Indore, he was the only one, and let me emphasize it, he was the only one who opted out for a regular placement in a multinational and decided to come back and start his own entrepreneurship. And this certainly was not liked by his family and friends, and they all thought it is a very bad decision. Within a couple of years, his life, his passion was shown in entrepreneurship. And for the first time, it was accepted when he got the award. Something that can all get inspired. That there are no easy ways. If you want to really make a change, you need to take higher risks, and it has its own results. With that anecdote, I would like to invite Gunajit and state the story of his journey from IIM Indore till now, and probably focusing on some of the companies that you have established. Welcome, Gunajit. Welcome, participants.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sanjay, for that introduction about me. It was really nice to hear from you. And thank you, Annajuri team, for having me today for the session. Let's start with the beginning. So I grew up in Assam, but then for higher studies, for graduation, I went out of Assam and I studied in Bangalore. And I worked over there for around 8 years, 9 years total, I think, yeah. So 9 years, and after that I got into IIM Indore and I went there for the two-year postgraduate program. During the program, in the fourth term, there was a course called Retail Management, where our professor has given us the task of developing a business plan for setting up a retail store or a business. So we, my team and I, we thought that we'll start the business of what Jivansh has become today. But at that time, we are thinking of making it more of a retail store. But then the idea or inspiration came from that particular project, the academic project that came by. And then I was one of the participant who opted out. There were actually two others also, but then now they are working in corporate jobs. But then I remained as an entrepreneur. So I opted out. Even the faculty members were a little bit confused why this guy is setting up on his own path and not sitting for placement, which might have given a better salary or better income at that time. But then I felt that the passion of setting up a business or running my own business or being my own boss was much higher than being somebody else's employee. So that's why I started that journey, and then I came back to Guwahati in April, and then we got our company registered in the month of June. So now this year we are an 8-year-old company with the first company that I started in, which is Jivansh Eco Products Private Limited.
We are losing Gunajit a little bit.
Ingredients of wordplay that we have done. Okay. So once I was there, so we became the only 3 companies that are developing a digital platform for selling organic products. We were the only 3 companies across India at that time. It was pre-Amazon days. Later on, when we started doing the e-commerce and we launched our website in December 2012, to mark it and think that we will be sustaining it for another 100 years since the next 12 sequence comes by. So we developed the platform and started selling organic product in our platform. And then there were a lot of good buyers that were coming by, and then the sales were okay. but then we were making a lot of losses due to digital marketing. And that time the digital marketing costs were very high, or consumer acquisition costs were very high. So what we thought was that then we will shift to food business. In 2014, we decided that we'll do business to business food of organic product. So, but then the problem was at that time, logistical challenges were there, whereby we could not sell organic food online because there is no platform to do such a transaction easily. Like, the cost of sending 1 kg of, suppose example, rice, which might have cost 100 rupees. The cost of transportation through e-commerce platform at that time was around 150 rupees. Now it has come down after Amazon, but before that it was very costly. So what we thought that we'll do organic food business, but then we'll do only to B2B customers where we will sell in larger quantities. So what has happened because of that is that our suppliers in the e-commerce platform who were selling us organic product, they started inquiring us whether we could supply them organic product from Northeast India or not. So we became one of the channel partner for them to sell organic product in India, from Northeast India. So taking that potential that there is a market for Northeast based organic product, I personally took the decision of coming back to the region, and I spent around 14 years outside, and I came back in the month of December 2014. So once I came back, I started interacting with the farmers over here as well as government officials, both state government and central government, to understand what is the organic market or organic scenario in the region. And then we realized that there is a lot of organic policies, or there are a lot of schemes that have been going on in 2015, and Sikkim was already going to get declared that they will be organic state in 2016. But then Sikkim and other states like Assam also had state policy for organic. But the problem was that the policy could not provide the farmer a market linkages. But since we were doing business with Bombay in Mumbai, we had that market connect. So what we thought that for the business that we want to do over here would be the market linkages that we can provide to the organic farmer of the region, Assam as well as other northeastern states. So that's why we started interacting more and more with farmers. We took about a year time and interacted with over 500 farmers initially to understand what are their challenges, whether it's only the market linkage that they have a problem with, whether they need more training on organic farming, and whether or not they need some guidance and hand-holding support in organic fertilizer or pesticide production. So then we thought we'll start the market linkage first and then go back to the backward integration and facilitation of farmers. So then we started the business for B2B or supply of organic product from Northeast to rest of India in the month of 2015. We started off with one or two products. Then I got the black rice of Manipur. And I seen that in a agriculture exhibition that one of the farmer of Assam is also doing black rice. And I read online about the potential of this black rice and realized that it has a very good market potential. So what we did, we started interacting with the farmer who was doing the black rice, whose name is Upendra Rabha. Later on, he got Krishi Ratna award also for cultivation of black rice in Assam. And Krishi Ratna is one of the largest, biggest award that a farmer can get. It's like the Bharat Ratna for a Kisan or a farmer in India. So we started interacting with him, and he Mr. Rabha again told us about his challenges and that he is not able to sell the product in the larger market. So then we said that, okay, we will try to do your market linkages. So we started off with about 10 kg, which was the initial sample order that we took. And I went there in the village to collect that particular consignment, 10 kg consignment. And we are glad to say that right now we do annually around 100 metric ton of sales from from him. It's about almost 100 metric ton we are buying from him. So you can understand the impact that we could make from 10 kg to around 1 lakh kgs. So that's the kind of work that we have been able to do over these 5 years with those farmers. So apart from that, we are also now working with farmers in the district of Udalguri, Gwalpara, a little bit in Sonitpur district, and then little bit in Kokrajhar, and then we are also interacting with some farmers in Jorhat district to do organic interventions. We have other
Gunajit,
FPOs.
would you like to show some pictures, some slides?
Yes, I'll
That
do
would
that.
be,
Yeah, I'll
that
do
would be
that.
really nice. You can share the screen, and that would be a lot better than understanding the black rice and the market potential.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Truly appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, can you see the screen now?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are the problem we're talking about. So this is the company that we got. We got a national award and all. So I would like. I'm glad to say that one of our product, the black rice of us, has gone to Prince Charles also. I mean, one of our client has gifted our black rice to Prince Charles when he was here in India in the month of November 2017. So this is the team. Um, and we are mainly IIT and IIM based team of management graduates as well as engineers developing the product and services. So these are the field work that we do. Yeah, this is the story of Upen Rava, the black rice thing that I was talking about. So you can see that the entire village, the village has around 40 families. So entire village is completely working on black rice cultivation, production, cultivation, sourcing, sorting and grading, cleaning, milling, and transportation. So you can see there are around 15 to 20 women that get employed the whole year. Otherwise, they would have been just a homemaker, or they might have thought of doing some weaving activity. But right now, since with the black rice, the sale has increased, so they are completely employed under Mr. Upen Rava for this product for cleaning, sorting, and production. And then you can see a truckload of consignment that we have sent. We are sending on a regular basis to our client in all over India. So also we have done little bit of contract farming in Udalguri for turmeric. Over here you can see that. And then okay, yeah, we also have done some ecotourism with farmers and FPOs as well as famous farmers like Tenzing Bodosa in the area of Udalguri district, which borders Bhutan. So in the year 2018, June 3rd and 2nd and 3rd, to celebrate World Environment Day, which is on June 5th, we took a team of 50 cyclists from Guwahati, and we cycled all the way to Tenzing's place, which is around 100 kilometers from here, from Guwahati to that border. And then we have stayed in his tent. We stayed in his tree house, as well as a lot of us stayed in tent over there, which is Tenzing. The farmer, he has world's first elephant-friendly tea estate. So the idea was to take those cyclists over there and show them how organic farming is being done, and how and what the what Tenzing and the other FPO that we are working with over there are doing, and how organic tea is being grown or cultivated. So to go there, we have to cross two rivers. So it's such a remote place, but such a pristine place that there is nobody, no human being are there. It is just the team that are managing over there. And Tenzing Treehouse Tea Estate is critical in preventing the human and animal conflict there, because he is an elephant-friendly tea estate. That means he does not have any electric fencing to prevent his tea crop from getting damaged by elephant movement. So what he does is that he has an alternative to that, which is he has lemon trees as a border or buffer zone, which has thorn in general, and then the citrus fruit. And then the elephants does not go to that area nearby. And but Tenzing has also made a consideration for the elephant, and I set up a small forest, separate cultivable forest over there with product like elephant apple, banana, pineapple, everything, which can the elephants can go to that particular location and go and consume all those products. And then, so yeah, the next day also we went to Bhutan in the borders and visited Bhutan and come back. So these were the kind of ecotourism that we are doing, providing not only ecotourism as a specific product, but also tribal tourism and organic tourism. So a lot of our clients come by. So whenever our clients come by, we take them over there. So here you can see client from sorry, it's a World Bank consultant from Denmark who visited us, and we took them to Tenzing's place to show him what we are doing over here in India and in Northeast India, and how Northeast India could be the agri business hub of for Southeast Asia. So also whenever we do give breakfast or give drink, it is all local or organic, and we try to give them in a environmental friendly way using this banana stem as a plate. So we have domestic client also from Bombay or from Delhi. Whenever they come, we take them to there and make them visit our place. Recently, in the month of January, we had client from Netherlands who came, and then we took them to Meghalaya because they wanted to do turmeric cultivation. I think the picture would be there, or it's not there. And then yeah, this is there, the picture. So they have come to do take Lakadong turmeric from Meghalaya. So we visited them with the government's permission from government of Meghalaya. We took them to those Meghalaya Lakadong farmers, and then later on take them to visit our tree house. Also, we have client from Germany and Belgium who have come for organic ginger and organic turmeric. So we took them to the field and make them visit our place and see for themselves what the product we are doing. On a regular basis, we also undertake organic training. It's a 3-day program with the blessing of Shri Shri Art of Living Foundation. And then we train the organic farmers or train our farmers on organic best practices, which not only include how to do organic cultivation, but also includes how to prepare their own organic farm inputs like organic Jivamrit, Pashu Amrit, and also organic pest controlling agent like organic Brahmastra, organic Agni Astra, etc. And also in this art of training, organic training, we also tell them how to do basic meditation and yoga so that their health remains intact. The problem, most of the problem with the farmer is what we have realized is that their back or the bone or their skeletal structure hurts a lot because they do a lot of physical activity, right? So through this yoga and meditation, they can relieve their pain in the longer term.
Gunajit, just to come back to one question where, because
Sure.
the presentation, you seem to have mixed a lot of one that you have created a niche market, say for example, yes, black rice going from here to globally. That's one. And secondly, in your program, in your business, you have not just been able to train, but you have also taken care of the environment. So animal human conflict, as you spoke about with the context of elephant, doing meditation, also producing organic. What is the idea behind it? Because this seems not just complicated, but this also seems a lot of hard work that goes in, just not in thinking, but also in having a vision that seemed to be really mesmerizing us.
Yeah. The whole idea behind that is to enable the farmers from becoming not only just farmer, but also becoming making themselves role model. See, right now we have around 10,000 farmers who are working with us, of which 2,000 are regular and the rest are, occupational farmers, like who are being employed during the cultivation or harvesting time, the farm laborers. So as a company, as a social enterprise, it becomes our problem. Their problem becomes our problem, right? Financial problem, or family issues or something like that. So that keeps us awake all the time, that whether our farmer is able to sustain themselves or not, like that. So we try to enable them as much as possible from our end. So that only not only builds a relationship with the farmer, but it also builds a long-term trust with the farmer. So our interaction with the farmer is not only for the financial transaction, like where we are buying the product from them, we are giving money to them, but also to develop their complete ecosystem over there, so that they benefit in the long term, and then that the next generation that comes by also indulges in agriculture, or indulges in ethical or sustainable agriculture. Because right now what we've realized is that the average age of our farmer is somewhere around 55. So that means there is a farmer who is 85, then there is some farmer who is 30 years. But then the number of 30-year-old farmers are very less. But the number of 70 or 60 or 55-year-old farmers are very high. So what is the problem is that today is not a big issue for us, but then 5 years or 10 years down the line, it will create a problem, because the age of the farmer is increasing. So they will be more senior citizen farmers, and then the productivity will decrease, obviously, because if youngster does not take agriculture or take agribusiness as a potential for their career growth, then the production capacity of India or the region will further decrease, which will further lead to import of a lot of commodity, which will again increase the price of the commodity or make even our farmer more poorer. So to prevent all this, and to develop and show that there is a model which can be both sustainable financially as well as sustainable in the long run, we have designed this module that we are right now working on, or we are doing business with.
Can you also enlighten us a little bit about who certifies that these are really organic products? One of the biggest market breaker, if I can say,
Yeah.
and it has happened all over the world, not just in India, but also in US, in Brazil, that you sell something as organic, but it is really not organic. And this is quite visible in India. Which are the agencies that certifies you, and what has been your experience with your product where there have been complaints? You can be completely honest about it.
Sure. So when we initially came in 2015, when interacted with the agriculture department, they were under this government scheme of RKVY. Yeah, PKV, RKVY, Rashtriya Krishi Vigyan Yojana, Vikas Yojana, sorry. So under RKVY scheme, the government was getting certifications from third-party certifying agencies, which are approved by the APIDA. APIDA is Agriculture Export Promotion Development Authority. So it's under the Ministry of Commerce. But then again, the challenges like it, Ministry of Commerce is managing the organic certification, but then Agriculture Department, Ministry of Agriculture also has their own certification, which is called Participatory Guarantee System, PGS. But then there were two conflicts. Like there is one NPOP, National Program for Organic Production, which is the third party certification, which is accepted internationally. And then there is this PGS, Participatory Guarantee System, which was mainly developed in France, but then it was adopted by India to certify local farmers. So we took the PGS certification route initially because it was cheaper and it benefited the farmer better, what we thought of. But the problem lied is that we became a field agent for PGS certification, but later on there were some political issues and there were some challenges. So we have to, move out of it. So right now, all our product that we sell in our website or through our platform or through our network are third-party certified product. And with the farmers, they were mostly
you are breaking.
Yes, earlier, but then after, sorry, under the government scheme. But after the third year, the government, the agriculture department releases them, and then the farmer collective does not continue it. So that's why we prefer working with farmer producer companies with a base of around 500 farmers. So then we can take up part of the certification cost. We typically prefer going for a 50-50 agreement where we enable them with the certification process, third-party certification process or NPOP certificate, and then 50% of the cost is borne by us, whereas we can sell the produce of the product that the farmer produces. So that we do only registered farmer producer companies only. We are not doing it with individual farmers because an individual farmer might not have the desired land area to get the true value out of the product. Like if the area is very small, the cost of certification is very high, it does not match. So that's why. But then we are doing third party certification. I mean, our product is third party certified NPOP. Yeah. So can I continue on the slides or
Yeah, please go ahead.
So this is the mode of operations. I mean, other companies can also look at it if somebody is interested in business doing. So initially, we first identify the product that we want to do and what is the demand for it. Because until and unless there is a demand and there is a requirement in the market, we don't go for that product. What has happened is that a lot of the time, the government machineries as well as the farmer or farmer collective do product that they are comfortable with rather than the product that are required by the market. So that's why what happened is that they will do, suppose for example, pumpkin were selling very cheap this year. So I'll just give you the example of pumpkin or tomato, right? So what has happened is a lot of people are doing pumpkin because it's easy to grow, or they got good quality seed, or maybe there was some government scheme for doing pumpkin. But then if they have not identified the market initially or beforehand, so selling those products becomes very difficult. So what we do is a company, we first identify the potential market, identify few buyers that who would be interested to buy the product, and then we go for contract farming of that particular product with farmer producer companies. And then when we do a contract farming, we go for a buyback assurance or agreement, because we already have a identified the product and we have already identified a buyer for it or the market for it. And if we have identified the market but not the buyer, then we then go for this lead generation part where we try to do a market linkages. So with other food companies across India or across the world. And then once that is been done, and then lead generation is successful and we were able to sell the product, we go for this transport and sell that we do through transport agencies, or through if you're going through air, we directly go to the airline and then we sell it, give it to them. So in the cases we have sent even black rice, we have sent rice also through air shipment to Bombay, which was supposed to go for export shipment. So that's why we have to send it by air, because it was time critical. So we have done air shipment also of low value products. That's
And was it still economically viable or feasible to send by air and recover and have some profit around it?
In a way, not always, but in few cases, yes. What we do is whenever we do an agreement with the farmer producer company, we try to go by the Food and Agriculture Organization under United Nations, FAO, under United Nations guideline, that organic farmers should get at least 10 to 15% more than the farm gate price. So, for example, farm gate price of one product could be 100 rupees. So, we will be giving them at least 110 or 115 rupees at the farm gate. But then, similarly, our buyer also, we try to get a better price for our farmers from our buyer. So, our margins are quite good. I don't want to disclose it, but then in few cases, air transport becomes feasible. Like we have sent air consignment for black rice, for sticky rice. Sticky rice again almost half the price of black rice, but we send through air shipment. Air shipment is actually cheaper. If you see the volume, we got air cargo from Guwahati to Mumbai at 28 rupees, including GST, through Indigo Airlines. Whereas if we do by road transport, we can go it at 18 rupees with GST. But then the transport duration becomes very high. Air cargo, it's hardly 3 hours, 4 hours. But when road transport, it takes around 7 days.
Right.
So few of the clients, they are willing to, if it's an urgent shipment, they are willing to, pay extra 10 rupee per kilo to get that air shipment done.
Right. Right. There is a lot of talk, Gunajit, around contract farming.
Yes.
ITC was the first one that developed it,
Yes.
and
Yes.
also created a new platform called eChopper.
Hmm.
Do you see, and you can be very open about it, that contract farming in the context of the India in general and Northeast in particular is much
Yeah.
better than the subsistence farming that our
Hmm.
farmers are employed? Because there is a lot of myth around contract farming. Oh, I lose my land, I have no rights
Yeah.
over it, I have already it's a kind of prepaid thing, so you won't give
Hmm.
me good prices even if you earn a lot more profit. So if you can throw a
Hmm.
little more light on the contract farming so that we
Yeah.
understand it, and maybe we have a much more realistic view on this.
Sure. Okay. See, there is a new guideline for contract farming that has been developed by the government right now, and the policy should come by before the harvesting season, I guess. The guideline is more to benefiting towards the farmer, so nothing land and all, nothing will go away. Once the guideline comes up properly, I can say more about it. But what we have done, contract farming, we had both success and failure in Northeast. Obviously, we didn't do it with individual farmer. We did it with FPOs. One FPO cheated us, but another FPO worked good closely with us, so they could earn better. With one FPO, we have done the one that I'm talking about is the negative one first. The one FPO that we have done is that we have given them everything. We have given them organic seed. We have given them organic farm inputs. We have also given them money for rental for their labors as well as farm equipment like tractor. But at the end, after 1 year, they were not selling the product to us, and they claimed that the product got destroyed. But later on, we came to know that they're selling it in retail market under their brand name, and then kind of that was a kind of the negative aspect where they cheated us on that, and they tried to bypass us. But then we made I think around loss of 2.5 lakhs, around 2.5 lakhs over there. But then in the positive aspect, when we did contract farming on black rice, we could increase our farmer income by I think around 1,000 times, I guess. Yeah. So our income from black rice itself was around earlier, which was around, which I mentioned earlier also, which was like we were doing around 1 metric ton or 100 kgs like that per month. And then suddenly we got orders from a domestic client who are buying into bulk amount. So then the volume increases from your 100 kg to 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 kgs per month. So you can see the shift of the
Right.
product value. So the
Right.
farmers is now monthly earning, the FPO is monthly earning around 7-8 lakhs by our interventions. So those who stick with us, those who have been working with us, have increased their FPO revenue or FPO income, or the farmer collective's income. But then who have cheated us, and they are still there. And then the important thing to understand over here is that the organic industry as such is very small or very nascent, right? So
Mhm.
everybody knows everybody. So if
Right.
there is somebody who has been doing some negative thing, or cheating not only farmers, cheating consumers also, saying
Mhm.
organic products, buying selling organic product at a very high price, but it's not organic at all. So the word spreads very fast in this sector, and then consumers get aware about the company or the brand very quickly. And then after that, because of that, obviously the transaction never happens later on with them who are trying to cheat the farmer. There are instances across the world. There are instances where there were cases of a lot of companies, a lot of individuals selling organic product in the name of organic, trying to charge more margin out of it, but actually these are chemical products. It is
Exactly.
difficult to ascertain whether it is organic or not just by visual inspection. But then once you consume it, mainly so for fruits and vegetable, once you consume it, you will know the difference right away. I mean, it's a taste thing that organic are more tastier. It has more flavor in it than chemically grown product.
Yeah.
So contract farming wise, yeah, I think I have
Yeah.
spoken about the contract
Go
farming.
ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, contract farming, those who does properly and get the paperwork done completely are in a better position. And right now, obviously, the government of India is looking at agriculture sector because our government has a mandate to increase, double the farmer income by 2022. So to do that, whatever is required, they are being doing to allow farmers to earn better prices. And then in few cases, what we have seen, at least in the poultry industry, where they are doing contract farming, farmers are able to make a money within 45 or they're able to generate money within 45 days, so which is almost double the money that they make. uh, the land-based contract farming, if they are doing for a very exotic product or a very a high value product with a buyback assurance, will be easier to do, and then the success would be there, rather than for product like potato or yeah, rather than a product like potato or something. I think there were cases recently, this year only, there were cases of this potato which is used for chips, one of the major company in India, I mean, chips making company in India. So they were supposed to buy the potato at 40 rupees from farm gate, but because of some blight, potato blight, and the price being down, they didn't buy the potato. They were asking for 25 rupees, and the farmer did not sell the potato to them. And but then they sold it to the open market at 30, 35 rupees something. So those cases happens even in contract farming with big companies, where both the party might decline to do it, purchase the product or sell the product. But then the new guideline might be able to prevent all those. Both farmers and company need to understand that the farmer needs to understand that the company who is putting in, suppose they are putting in their money, so then you have an obligation to sell the product to them. But then the company also needs to understand that if they are selling the seed material to the farmers, then they have an obligation to buy it. So there are instances where mainly for the stevia cultivation, what we have seen a couple of years ago, till last year, yeah, till last year it has happened that there are some company coming in from outside of Northeast and saying that we will buy stevia for very high price. So and they have sold the seed material, they have sold fertilizers, they have sold pesticide, everything to the farmer, and told them to take farmer credit loan. I mean farmer loan. They have forced the farmer to take loan, and then they have siphoned the money. Those companies have siphoned the money and ran away. And now the farmers are, I think, around 60 farmers. They're suffering for that, and then all those farmers have got, the loan has been defunct. They are not able to pay. The bank account has been defunct. So those cases are also like that. I mean, that cases are also there. So they need to be very cautious about getting. The farmer needs to be cautious if they are planning to get a new product which they have never done. They should not do it. Otherwise, they might get the probability of getting cheated by those outside companies, and then the companies might just siphon the money from your bank account.
Yes.
So yeah, those are the challenges.
Would you tell us a little more about what is farm easy technologies and what do you deal
Yeah.
under this?
Okay, I'll just close the screen sharing.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, Farm Easy Technology is a very new company that we have launched on the 1st of January 2020. Luckily, we got the date on the 1st of January, it got registered. And it was kind of a New Year gift for us, I guess, for the team. So this company, we are developing digital platform to facilitate financial inclusion of small and marginal farmers. And how we are going to do that is that we will be doing a digital KYC for those farmers and facilitating them to take loan easily. And then we are tying up with banks or NBFCs or MFIs who will be giving them those Kisan credit card or Kisan loans. What happens is that normally a farmer does not go to a bank to take a loan because he don't know the bank manager. The bank manager doesn't treat him well because he's a small farmer, and the paperwork he don't understand. What all documents needs to be given for taking a loan, what the collateral, whether he has to give a collateral or not. He don't know what is collateral also, right? So what we are doing is that, and then he does not have a PAN card. Most of the farmers in Assam does not have a PAN card, or most of the farmers in general does not have a PAN card because they don't have to show their agriculture income as taxable. So that's why they don't have PAN cards. But then for bank, you need for a loan, you need a PAN card, right? So what we and to get a credit score, you need a PAN card, like CIBIL score or something. And since the farmer does not have a PAN card, they don't have any score. So what we have developed in-house is the algorithm to determine the credit worthiness of a farmer by undertaking around 80 plus parameters of an individual farmer, like how much land area he or she has, what are the crop that they're growing in the particular season, Rabi, Kharif, or summer, what are the livestock do they have, whether they have a irrigation facility or not, what are the organic fertilizer inputs they are using. So based on that, we create a scorecard and then give a rank to the farmer and also give a estimation that how much this farmer owns or what is the worthiness of this farmer, financial worthiness. We assume that farmers are poor, but actually farmers are not poor. They have this land, they have their own livestock, and then they have their own crop, right? They might be economic, they might be money poor, but they're not food poor. So what we have estimated is that a basic small farmer having 1 bigha of land, having 3-4 chickens or poultry, and doing cultivation 3 times a year is worth around 2 lakhs. His annual income is worth around 2 to 3 lakhs for this particular small farmer in a tribal area. Okay, if it's a non-tribal area, the value of the farmer will further increase. So this algorithm and this technology that we are developing under Farm Easy Technologies, the product would be Farm Infinity, which the application will be launching on the August 15th. We will be giving this as a gift to the farmer community of India as a Independence Day gift, to give them independence of their financial worry and to help them come out of this financial problem and become self financially sufficient, and then provide loan and insurance through our platform. So
This
that's we
sounds,
are developing.
yeah, this sounds like what the microfinance institutions do, what they call financial due diligence. Is it something very similar to that?
So no, due diligence is just one part of it. The KYC will be just one part of it, and the product list that we are doing. The main product that we are doing is a credit scorecard, which will be giving to the bank to give the loan, because the NPA in agriculture credit is very high, right? Comparatively to other NPAs, it's around 14 to 15%. But then the NPA from the small and marginal farmers are very low, but then from the larger farmers is higher. So what is the has is that because of the larger farmers, the smaller farmer does not get the loan. So our objective is to make them loan worthy. So to make them loan worthy, we have to tell what is the worthiness of that farmer, right?
So
That is what
basically the
the
bank will
technology
accept your scorecard.
Yes, that is the idea. That right now there are banks who are already tying up with other financial institutes or digital platforms who are doing financial loan for farmers. There are 1 or 2 in the country, but not like us. We are developing that algorithm that will be unique, and we are planning to tie up with at least 5 to 10 banks by the year end. Because of the COVID situation, we got delayed a bit. But once the platform is ready, and then once the platform could be given to the farmer or the FPO who are managing those farmers, then we feel that it will benefit all of them. So the target market is around 10 crore small and marginal farmers, and the value of that market is around 15 lakh crore. And then 15 lakh crore is a government mandate also now, that 15 lakh crore will be the agriculture credit that the government of India will be annually giving it to farmers of India.
Okay, thank you. Maybe with this we can move to the last bit on the Bhakti Energy Private Limited, and then we'll open the platform for question and answer from the participants.
Sure. Yeah, my other company, Bhati Energy Private Limited, is a solar renewable energy based company. It's a Gujarat based. The head office is in Gujarat. Branch office, a small branch office here in Assam. And we do solar water pumping, solar hydration projects for small and marginal farmers and farmers in general of India. But right now, our focus has shifted globally, and the company has also shifted its base. Gujarat is still the base, but then company has shifted its one of the branches that we got established is in Europe. And right now we are doing global projects in the company through the European subsidiary. And then we are doing projects in Brazil, and we are doing a little bit of project in France. So the Bharti Energy product portfolio is completely solar based right now. But then the major product are water pumping systems. And then we do a little bit of hydroponic also. We are trying to develop hydroponic model for solar based hydroponics for agriculture sector. And then automated, water pumping systems and everything. But then for the international projects, we do mainly power plants, and then supply to those panel supply to those power plants, and then EPC for we are planning to do a EPC for a city in France. So yeah,
that's a good one. Maybe I should link you up with Dr. Kerstin Dennert and Matthias Saladin, two of the people based in Switzerland who are doing quite a bit of work on solar irrigation. And they have a platform called RWSN. Maybe if you type, you'll find one, which is Rural Water and Sanitation Network. But and it has over 14,000 members from all over the world, with around 78 countries participant. Maybe I'll personally introduce them.
Sure.
The platform is open for the participants to ask questions from Gunajit, get the inspiration. I will have one last question just before the session, but not now, because that question could be a little uncomfortable for Gunajit. But let's not ask that now on. So please go ahead. Anybody who wants, tell me, unmute yourself and ask your questions. Let me see if there are questions in the chat box.
There are, chat box. There were some questions, I guess.
So shall we take that?
Yeah, we can take that if nobody is speaking.
Yeah. So here is Subhas Bhattacharjee to everybody, who says Black Rice of Manipur having a GI registration too. Another 11 products of Northeast has got GI registration.
Yeah.
So this seems to be an information.
Yeah, comment. Yeah, I know Subhash sir. So
Okay.
yeah, he's well known to me. He's a kind of a, I think he's my friend's brother-in-law. So he's kind of a brother-in-law to me as well.
We have from Menpa Lingi, who says, I have about 30 metric ton ginger from my field in Arunachal Pradesh, for which potential buyer is sought. Transportation arrangement is also available at my end. Can anybody help connect? So here is a farmer asking you for your help to sell his product, which is ginger.
Okay. I'm not sure whether it's Mr. or Miss, so I'll just say Menpa. Menpa, the ginger rates this year has been a little bit higher from the buyer's perspective, because China is completely locked down. In the global market, China ginger is typically goes across the world. But then because the China lockdown, the ginger rates have been shoot up very high. But if you can give us a competitive rate, we can look into it. I'll share my last screenshot, which will have my contact detail. Maybe you can email me, and then we can take it forward from there. I'll just share my email address in the screenshot.
Maybe a good idea, Gunajit, is to just also type your email in the chat box so that everybody can copy it.
Okay.
Yeah. You show it this one and also do.
Yeah. That. If I type, I won't be. Okay, I'll type it. We do have requirement of ginger, but then the international buyer is asking. It's for international shipment. The buyer is asking for everything, packaging, etc. But then here the problem is they don't have packaging facility in Northeast. So this is the detail. You can email me. Phone typically becomes very difficult to take because I have 3 companies, so I'm managing all 3 of them. But then you are WhatsApp me this number. The phone number has WhatsApp. Otherwise, email would be an ideal option for us.
Good. So here is sampark@jivacons.com. Yeah. And I'm sure if you go to jivanks.com, you can also contact them through the email.
Yes.
And this is his WhatsApp number, so feel free to get in contact with him. I'm not sure, Gunajit, if you have worked on there is quite a lot of talk in recent time because of the different kind of chemicals that you were getting in the poultry, chicken, in the fish, even in pork meat. Is there something that we can do? And there are a group of people with me who are interested in doing what they call organic non-vegetarian food, and which is like Northeast is all about non-vegetarian food.
Okay. Yeah.
So is there something that you are thinking on that line, or you can help and train people to go organic chicken, organic goat, organic fish?
In the tribal area, they are consuming organic because they don't put any medicine and all. Whenever it becomes commercial cultivation, then only these hormones and these inputs are being used. Hormone-based inputs or growth promoters are being used. Or in the case of fish, they use urea, chemical urea to grow the fish in a very fast way. But we actually wanted to keep our company as vegetarian as possible. But then maybe we'll look into organic organic meat, because we had some query from Spain earlier for organic ham or organic pig meat. So what we were thinking of is to help promote the local variety of pig, cultivate them organically, give them the best feed that they can. I mean, like, give them apple, grapes, pineapple, cabbage, carrot, whatever they want to eat. The pigs of are organic pigs, and then sell those pigs in a very high quality market. I can give you an example of Wagyu beef, which is grown in a particular location in Japan, which has a hill. It's under the Fuji mountains. So it's only grown in that particular region, the Wagyu beef. And the Wagyu beef, 1 kg fetches around $1,000, which is like 75,000 rupees. So we want to make, per kg, that is the per kg rate. We want to make our organic pig, the local variety, local breed of pig, that kind of quality, and to get a better price for our farmers. Poultry, there are local varieties of poultry also, which the farmers can look into. We in our team, we don't have the expertise for animal husbandry right now, so we cannot give the training to do organic animal husbandry, organic farming. But then there are talk with one company or one team for doing organic farm feeds or organic green fodder for providing it to milk for A2 cows. So then organic milk could be the first thing that comes to the market in a recent time in
Yeah, and that is something I've seen happening in Bangalore about the organic milk distribution.
in Northeast. So then we can think of.
So there is an information from Milind
Yes,
Datta.
in metros it has happened. Organic milk is.
Yeah, there is information for Mengpa by Milind Datta that there is a very good packaging company here in Guwahati. So maybe post session, you can either send me a message or drop your message in the chat box, and we can connect you to Milind Datta, who can connect you with the packaging company. That's for Mengpa. That's one good solution. Thank you, Milind.
Sure.
There is a question from Pranab. He says, what is the prospect of organic products in B2C market through e-commerce in Northeast India?
That's a little bit difficult aspect. The problem with e-commerce is that the penetration of mobile technology or smartphone is limited to the younger generation, and younger generation are not, at least in Northeast, and then younger generation are not consuming the data for purchase for organic product. The majority of the consumers of mobile technology are doing it for Facebook, WhatsApp, YouTube, and all those platforms. But then in the future, there will be a potential, so they can look into this e-commerce model. But then it will be limited to major cities only, maybe metros, sorry, not metros, the state capitals and then tier 3 cities of Northeast like Jorhat, Dibrugarh, or Tezpur, like that. But then there could be a potential if they can work out the logistics. It might be feasible. There was a e-commerce company earlier. There is a company that still now. They were doing organic product of Northeast, but then it's like it's a Bangalore-based company actually. So the
Yeah.
problem was that they take the product from Guwahati, from Northeast, pack it in Bangalore, and again ship it back to Northeast. So the cost of shipping and the duration of shipping was very high. But then I think if you are trying to sell it, initially try to do it in a B2C marketplaces like Amazon or Flipkart, and then see how many consumers you are getting from Northeast. And then if you see that there is a good number, then you can go for e-commerce for the organic product, specifically for Northeast market. Otherwise, anyway, you can do the physical retailing. Guwahati has become more conscious now about at least about organic fruits and vegetables. So that market is growing, organic fruits and vegetable market in Guwahati at least. And other states, so there are anyway, in Northeast, they're consuming organically cultivated. Very limited are being done chemically.
Aman Agrawal has a question. He says, is there value addition in farm produce through technology like solar drying, etc.? If not, how do you see the scope for people like us to enter from business point of view to benefit from all parties involved? So he's talking about more equity kind of agri entrepreneurship where everybody gets a
Solar.
benefit. Yeah.
I will like to share a quick screen about the solar project.
Please do.
There was a solar project. See, here you can see there is a solar project that was given to the Meghalaya government by a company from down south. The problem is this: the solar panel are being used to dry the dry the turmeric. You can see it's a turmeric dryer. Okay, turmeric, ginger, whatever. The capacity is around 200 kgs. You can see over there, I specifically put a small motor. The picture it says it. I think it's around 2.5 watt motor. Let me check. Okay, it's a 23 watt motor. Okay, there are two motors like this, 23 watt, two motors, 23 watt. The problem is that these two motors runs on electricity. So the company that they made the solar panel or the solar dryer, they made it a thing is that you need electricity to run this solar dryer, at least to run this motor to run the solar dryer more efficient. But then this panel itself is around 250 watt panel, so the panel could have been directly been pumped the energy in the motor and then get a solar output and run make it completely decentralized. But now since the motor requires electricity, a lot of people or a lot of farmers are not buying the product in the rural setting because they don't have the electricity over there regularly. So if your product, the solar product that you are planning, or the company, I think Aman Agarwal was saying this, if Aman is planning to, get the solar product here, they have to think that it has to be decentralized in nature. There is a lot of demand for it. There is a need for it. So it can go. It can, be sold here. There are few technology that IIT Guwahati is also developing in solar, which is very minimal, but then they are using solar thermal rather than solar energy. They're using solar thermal and storing that thermal energy and using that energy to develop, dry the food product. So I think they were using induction as a technology, I guess, if I'm not wrong. So that becomes very minimal.
The next question is from Mr. Kumar Mangalam. He says, I'm working on a sustainable hotel here in Tinsukia. Some time ago, you mentioned about hydroponic farming. I'm personally looking at that for the hotel to establish an ecosystem for us. Could you shed some light on this? So he's asking from a hydroponic farming.
Hydroponics. Okay. So hydroponic, we are not doing much on this. There are 2-3 companies in Guwahati that are doing hydroponics. One is in I think both of them are in Sonapur. So you can, I can give you the detail later on to you separately if you can contact me. But what we were doing actually is trying to develop a model where solar energy can be used instead of electricity to run those hydroponic farms. We ourselves don't have any expertise in hydroponics, so I can give you very limited knowledge about it.
So, okay, if there are more questions, welcome. I'm sorry, there was some problem and people were not able to unmute. They can unmute themselves now and ask the questions.
I have a question. Gunajit,
Yeah,
could you please share the name, maybe in the chat box also write down the name about your company, both the companies, specifically the first one.
okay.
And can anybody from Northeast apply or join you for that?
For?
To get benefit from your company.
The
first one.
How, as in job or as in farmer?
As a farmer.
Okay. Yeah, farmer, we are right now working with farmer producer companies. So if they are part of a farmer collective, they can contact us directly. We are not working with individual farmers right now.
Okay.
The problem is that with individual farmers, it becomes very difficult for us to manage. We have around 10,000 farmers. Right? You can imagine if I get a call from each farmer every day, I will take at least 10 years to reply to all my farmers currently, the present set of farmers. So, right, that's why I prefer working with FPOs or farmer collectives. If they have a collective, so they can directly approach us through our email address. Email address I have already shared earlier. Do I want to?
So isn't there some kind of contact us helpline where people can make inquiries? Okay. If there is that kind of number, maybe that is quite helpful for everybody.
No, that my mobile number is there, which I have shared. That one will be for WhatsApp number, which can be used for or can be given to for contacting me. So I am just writing the solar thing. Somebody has asked me whether what is the email address for solar installation. So it's Ganet@battienergy.com.
Okay.
Hydroponic farms. Yeah. Okay.
So I have another question. Two questions. One is that to see such a talent, we need more in Assam. I'm glad that you are here, and I am not so glad that your company is like a Switzerland based or some other site. Like, it would be great to have our local company, right? And also, how could we have those turmeric or the black rice and all that sell from here? What do we need to do so that instead of sending the raw material somewhere else and packaging and they making the money, what Assam or Northeast has to do so that we can sell it right from here, packaging, everything. And what would it be your dream, and how could we go to that level?
No, both my agri-business companies like Jivansh, which is into organic agriculture, which I have mentioned, is a Guwahati-based company. Everything is being done here from here only, production, processing, everything. The Farm Infinity is also Guwahati-based. Only Bati Energy is right now Estonia-based, European company, but then it has its roots in India. The problem here, Assam, the problem is, suppose we want to sell international product or target internationally. The problem is that we don't have any APIDA approved pack houses, nor we have any APIDA approved mills or processing units in the entire region. We don't have any food processing units certified APIDA certified food processing unit, nor we have any APIDA approved or NABL accredited food laboratories in the region. So that creates a bigger challenge. So suppose I have to send an export shipment, I have to take the consignment either to Bombay, Delhi, or Calcutta. Through that only I can go to the international market. So the infrastructure needs to be developed, which could be by other entrepreneurs or by the government of Assam to facilitate those things. Because we as an entrepreneur, we can do target one aspect of the business, right? So our target is the marketing aspect of the business and back end of it. So infrastructure, we have a little bit limitation in our I mean, we have a little bit limitation of finance, so that's why we have a limitation of developing our own infrastructure. That's why we're relying on others' infrastructure or infrastructure outside the region.
So Gunajit is almost an hour, and everybody, you have finished all the questions. Two questions that I would like to ask before we end the session today. One, 8 years down the line of your journey from not joining a multinational company to opening something through your own and eating one or two pieces of vada pav in Mumbai, and still saying that no, I'll become an entrepreneur and I will not go and do a job. How do you see, is your decision justified? Do you see that you made the right decision by taking the risk? Or do you see that many of your colleagues and classmates who joined multinational company are doing far better than? So if you can give me a factual overview, very fact-based. And the second question and related question is, what is the kind of turnover that you are having right now, 8 years down the line, where you started in say 2013-14, and what is the turnover right now, so that the people who are here can get inspired that everybody doesn't need a government job, doesn't need a multinational job, they can be their own master. One of the very inspiring thing that you said, that every farmer has a worth of 2 lakh rupees or more. Imagine, I have employed more than 100 people whose worth is just around 1 lakh rupees. They get 8 to 10,000 or 15,000 rupees salary. So that means 150,000, less than a farmer. But people respect them more that he does a job of 15,000 and gets in cash. So if you can make a small comment on that.
Okay. So answer the first question about whether it was a good decision or not. So at this juncture in my life, I don't have much regret or any regrets that I didn't sit for final placement or I became entrepreneur, and unlike my friends, because now a lot of my friends are getting frustrated of their corporate life and are becoming or planning to become entrepreneurs. And when they plan to become entrepreneurs, or from a batchmate at least, they call me first and they say, what are the things that you have done right, and what are the things I need to do to be like you. So it becomes more of a compliment that I became an entrepreneur. And now I teach entrepreneurship to my in my alumni, in my IIM Indore. I go and teach the junior students entrepreneurship. So I think that would be a positive aspect of becoming an entrepreneur by myself. And then there are a lot of
on a very light note. Yeah. On a very light note, so you can employ some of your classmates in your company now.
Yeah, in a way. My team has joined back. When we started off with IIM Indore team only, 5 of us. So out of 5 of us, 3 of us, the other 2 has joined back to the company now. They want to become an entrepreneur, and then they are doing the good job, managing the business right now. I'm slowly moving away from the day-to-day operation of the business. So that's there. Friends are coming back and becoming entrepreneurs. And your second question was, I think, about the farmer value, right?
No, the related question was on the turnover and then the farmer.
Okay. I won't like to disclose the number per se, but I can just tell you the digits. So initially, when we started off, first year we did a 5-digit number. Right now we are into the higher end of 7-digit. So this year we thought of achieving an 8-digit target, but then because of the COVID situation, we might not. But we as well do it. I don't know. We might as well do it because we have support from IKEA Foundation right now, because we are one of the companies from South Asia to be selected for IKEA Foundation's Land Acceleration Program, which is a India, USA, and Europe collaboration. We have mentors from US with us now who are helping us reach out to the US market. So we hope that we'll be able to achieve the number.
Thank you. And on the farmer.
8-digit is our target this financial year. And yeah, because of the new company Farm Infinite, through our L-Bound, woman farmer in a remote location like India-Bhutan border is, that is her value. So the farmer's value over here near to Guwahati would be much higher. It could be double or it could be triple also. Like if our value is 2 lakhs, it could be 6 lakhs for this farmer. So that only thing I would like to say to fellow entrepreneurs, fellow agri businesses, that we as a individual or as a person who are into the business line should respect what our farmers are doing, because without them nothing would have been possible till today. More so in the COVID time, because food commodity is the only essential commodity apart from medicine, which is the only essential commodity, essential businesses that are running till now, and it will remain always. Roti, kapda, and makan. So roti always comes first, then kapda and makan. So whenever you are planning to do a business, always go for food kind of business, which will have a larger impact in the long run.
Is there any question?
Cold chain facilities, somebody has asked. Polmi Gogoi. Polmi Gogoi, there are few cold chain storages in Assam, but you have to be a little bit specific about where you want the cold chain to be. Near Guwahati and Sonapur, there are two. And traders, Mr. Ravi Gulguli and his team, they have one cold chain, one of the largest cold chain in Northeast. There are cold chain facility in Northeast Mega Food Park also. You can take look at that facility as well. Otherwise, you can set up your own cold chain facility. Now, Government of India is giving 50% subsidy on cold chain setup. Even APIDA. I think somebody also has asked for the schemes and support. Okay. Okay, Miss Archita Agarwal has asked, are the Government of India supported schemes for accommodating organic farming sufficient enough? See, the government scheme is mainly for the infrastructure development or the farming support for organic farming. The government, although they have mandate for market linkages, they were not, or they are not being able to achieve that for obvious reasons, because they are not connected with the agriculture officers or the people who are doing the MOVCD schemes are not connected with the industry, or they are not connected with the market, or they are not connected with the buyers. So that becomes a major challenge. Although market linkage is part of the organic promotion scheme, MOVCD, but then that is will take a backseat. So entrepreneurs like us will be the key for providing that last mile connectivity for our farmers, where we can sell their product in the domestic and international market. Somebody has asked for my phone number. I think phone number we have already shared. Are you training people in Assam also? Yeah, Milind, we are training people in Assam only right now. We are, most of our trainers are Assamese trainers, Art of Living trainers are Assamese trainers, and then we have Bodo trainer also. So we can do in both the languages for now. If we get more trainer who would like to be youth who would like to become trainer, then we can facilitate the training program for them also. But in our website in jivansh.com, we have a download section from where the anybody can download an English version as well as a Bodo version of the how to make organic farm inputs. If somebody is interested, they can do it in translate it in Assamese. We would be glad to put their translation in our website for how to make organic farm inputs in Assamese language.
Good. I don't see many more questions.
Yeah,
so
Gunajit, one more question.
Yeah, go ahead. There is one.
So, many times, like now, we are trying to connect all people, right? Having entrepreneurs like you, it's really a pleasure to see somebody who is so dynamic and be here in Assam. And now, since we are slowly connecting to all the, not all, but many entrepreneurs, will it be helpful, say, when we to have a community of entrepreneurs, and then together try for a food laboratory or processing or together will it be able, I do not know much about how system work over here. Together, can we write application to the government where there's a, let's say, 10 organization or more,
Yeah.
right? I would love to see a food processing organization, unit here.
Okay. Yeah, it is possible. There are few talks that have been going on through APART also, agriculture, rural promotion or something, which is Aries, under Aries Society. So they are planning to set up one, agri community or committee, which will be, which will have all food processing companies or agri companies associated in Assam, but and also in district level. But still, we can look at as a alternative to set up our own committee or community over here, which can become a mouthpiece and voice the voice the suggestions that agri businesses require. Otherwise, we can also tie up with organizations like Finer. Finer has a food vertical. I know companies who are doing, who are voicing their opinion in the food policies or MSME policies or agri policies for in the government of entire Northeast governments, all the state governments, they are doing it. So we can do that, not only for Assam, but entire Northeast. We can have such opinion, voiced opinion that can be done through a community.
So when do you see Assam to be self-sustaining, or lots now, for example, lots of fish, 2/3 of the fish that we consume come from outside. I do not have the idea about meat or the wheat, but what is your opinion? Like, when could Assam or Northeast be independent so that we can generate our own food? It's not coming from outside.
Gunajit, I think Gunajit is having a weak connection. He told us that his connection is weak, 3G, and so sometimes there is a disturbance. Gunajit, did you hear the question?
That's the
Hello.
last question.
Hello. We have lost Gunajit. Hello. Yeah. Okay.
Is there any more question over there?
And there is one more question by Satendra Singh to applicability of solar energy in tea processing industry.
I had a call, so I think.
Hello. So
Gunajit,
the last.
Turn off the video, then we can hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I actually got a call. So I can call.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. Are you back?
Yeah. Yes, I'm back. So, Milind, can you quick? Northeast sufficient, right? Food wise.
So
Yes.
When it can sustain, self-sustainable.
Yes, self-sustained. See, self-sustenance can happen only when the youth of today stop of Northeast, stop doing your chanda collections, and then concentrate on developing their, developing their entrepreneurial skills and becoming self-employed. Doing by become sufficient and try to become entrepreneurial rather than just becoming some more and more youth are coming in. Otherwise, I know are coming. A lot of experts are coming, which are doing agri-businesses or taking up agri-businesses as a this thing. You see, most of the successful agri-businesses over here are right now being run by people who have studied outside and came back. Not only us, there are other companies also like Arohan Foods and I think I can tell you this the Kiwi company in Arunachal, and then there are a few companies like Zizira and all from then this MoMA and this Green Biotech from Manipur. So everybody studied outside and then came back to give something back to the community. So because of this expat community coming back and doing the business and showing a success, the local people, the local youngsters are getting motivated. So maybe I think it will take another 5 to 10 years because there are a lot of policies that needs to be changed in the state level to make Northeast a self-sustaining one. But within I think 5 to 10 years, we could be a producer region rather than a consuming region.
There are two more questions, Gunajit. Maybe you can answer them shortly and then we call it a day. Do you believe in vertical farming as the future of farming? And the other question by Mr. Satyendra Singh is applicability of solar energy in tea processing industry.
Okay. Vertical farming, specifically in the Northeast area, vertical farming as whole in the context of a global economy is a very good promising area. But then you have to go to those areas where the product prices will be to sell, or Bangalore or Delhi or Jakarta or maybe in London or New York. So those places where land is in short, will do better. Then regions where the soil land is still cheap. See, the agriculture land in tribal area is 300 rupees per year, like in the leasing part, 300 to 600 rupees per year. So you cannot compete 300, 600 rupees with the vertical farming, which will cost you around 20 lakhs, and try to get a value out of it. So vertical farming, I think Northeast would be still in a very nascent stage. You can try it out to sell to 5 stars and other hotels if they are willing to buy. Then you can look into vertical farming Northeast. So that would be my suggestion. And for solar food processing, yes, there are already companies in Bangalore that are doing solar-based food processing for rice or wheat or milling or grinding. So for the primary processing, solar-based primary processing would be useful. For secondary processing, it might not, until and unless it's a solar thermal based unit where you have boiling as a main ingredient of the processes, or heating as one of the processes. Then your solar thermals, which is like concentrated solar panels, are being used to concentrate the heat in a one particular location that use the heat to generate either energy or generate steam or heating water. That can be looked upon, but then it's a little bit costly as of now. Solar concentrated for Northeast it will be costly. Solar thermal, normal solar you can use. Solar thermal you can use during the winter time to do primary processing. Otherwise, solar can be used for storage also. Solar-based storage units are there, so that you can look upon cold storage and normal carbon dioxide-based storage.
Good. Thank you, Gunajit. This has been truly enlightening. Not just you are inspiring the people of India and training them, particularly in Assam. We do see that there are people who will love to join entrepreneurship. There is a new term that has come, and I think you pretty much justify that term, passion entrepreneurs. That you follow the passion. It's not about money making, it's not about good jobs, but if you're something very passionate about it, you can really be a passionate entrepreneur. And there are plenty of case studies where says people who have followed their passion, they have done well in their life. And you are one burning example like that. So thank you so much for being with us. We look forward that you will stay with us for other sessions on another day and keep inspiring us. Thank you, audiences, for being part of this platform and joining us. If you have any question, please do write to us and we'll try and link with the right resource person who can answer your question. So thank you so much and have a good day. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.